So this is going to be a video about converting masked foliage into non-masked foliage so that it's ready for nanite. This tree in front of us here is currently not being converted. These ones have been, as you can see, so that's what we're going to do in this video. Now, scouring the internet, I found one single video by this guy Dave Makes Games sometimes, and it's using Blender geometry nodes to cut out for the nanite stuff. So it's cutting all of the excess geometry out so that we only end up with the leaves. This is not going to be a video about full geometry conversion. That's just too complicated. So the first thing we're going to do is this tree here is the one we want to do, so I'm just going to delete that for the moment. Now what we need to do is we need to go and find our tree, and in my stuff I got the tropical jungle pack quite some time ago, and the tree in question is this one here. So we're going to go into that, and the first thing we need to do is we need to go to the LOD settings and turn the LODs down to 1 and apply that. I've already done it here. We need to go into general settings, collision, and set it to no collision, and that's about it for those bits. Now we need to get the material, the texture for the foliage. We're not worried about the trunk, just the foliage. And here it is here. I'm going to open this up, and we need to get the texture, the diffuse texture, and here it is here, and we're going to right click, go to asset actions and export that, and we're going to export it to a folder that I've already made here for all my conversion stuff, Tropic Tree Medium, and we'll save that, and then we'll go back to the actual mesh and also right click, asset actions, and export it to the same folder, and leave all this stuff as it is here. It's basically default, and that's it for UE at the moment. The next bit you need to do is go into GIMP or Photoshop, doesn't matter which you got, and we need to open the diffuse texture we just saved, which is in here, that one there. And what we need to do is we need to make a path from the opacity channel. So we need to go to components, decompose RGBA, because we want the alpha channel, turn off decompose to layers, and then up here we can delete these excess ones. So now what we need to do is we need to make a path. So if we go up to select and select by color, click in a black bit, make sure this threshold is set to 0. It usually is by default. Now we've got all of the black selected, and now go back to selection and then make it to path, and now we have a path. If you click on the path and then export path, we'll export it to the same folder, and we're going to call it the same name as the diffuse texture, but we're going to call it path instead. And we also need to change the PNG to SVG because Blender does not do that. Export that, and we are done with Blender. Okay, now we need to go into Blender, and we'll go into Blender and clear these items and import our FBX of the tree. Once that's imported, go down to materials, and then for the foliage material, which is the leaves, we need to go to base color, click on the little yellow dot and select image texture, and then open the image texture, which is our diffuse texture. When we do that, we'll have a texture on for the leaves, which is nice. The next thing we need to do is we need to separate the leaves from the trunk, because we don't want the trunk in the way while we're doing all this. We're only working on the leaves. So we'll go to edit mode and then press P and then separate by material, and that will separate, and then we'll go back to edit object mode again, and that will separate out our tree trunk and our leaves. We need to put the tree trunk into a new collection, so right click new collection, get the trunk and drag that down into that collection, and then turn that collection off, and now we've got just our leaves to work on, which is how we want it. The next thing is the geometry nodes part. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually use the UV channel to lay all this stuff down flat on the ground so that we can cut through it with our path. So click on new, move these around like so, and then add a geometry read named attribute node, and go into the named attribute node and click on name and then select UV map 0. Off this we're going to get a set position node for the geometry, and plug the UV into the position, and then plug this one into geometry, and that will lay it all down flat as per the UV channel. But this is too small, so we want it this big as 1 meter. So if we go here and right click, mute, and then when that's muted it'll pop up again, and then in this window we need to set the scale or apply the scale. I don't understand how this works, but this is what we got to do. So Control A and then apply scale, and you'll see these numbers over here just changed, so it worked. Now what we're going to do is we're going to unmute this, and then we'll see that we've now got it in a nice 1 by 1 meter square. The next thing to do is to bring in our tool, which is the path. So we'll go up here and import SVG, go into our folder and import the SVG file. You can see here that it's quite large, so what we need to do is we need to reduce that. If you go up here to this little arrow, pop that out, go down to these ones, left click and drag down the first two, and then set them to 1 by 1, so that'll make it 1 by 1 meter. And now everything lines up with our geometry and our texture. The next thing to do with the path, and these two bits are important, is we need to actually raise the path up, so make sure it's selected, and then go to move, and then lift it up a little bit, and then while it's selected still, come down here to the data, and this resolution preview, we need to set that to 2, not 12. 12 is far too high. And now when we've done that, we can see that the path is, you know, chunkified a bit. It's simplified, which is what we want. Otherwise, we'll end up with way too much geometry. Okay, so now that's all set. The next thing we need to do is go up and select the tree object again, set it to wireframe, go to edit mode, and when we go to edit mode you'll see it all pops up out of place again. That's fine. What we need to do is we need to go in the tree, we need to go to the modifier tab, and we need to go to this geometry nodes and set this on cage. We need to turn that on, and that will pop it back down to where we want it. And now we're ready to do our first cutting operation. With the tree selected, control click on the selection, the path as well, and then go up to mesh and knife project. That doesn't take too long, but it doesn't actually cut through all of the overlapping or stacked islands that we're looking at here. So you need to click down in here and then tick cut through. The cut through will take a little bit of time, So we'll just wait for that to happen. Okie dokie, it's finished now. Select none, and don't worry too much about this stuff yet. It looks really messy. I actually did this whole tutorial yesterday, and yeah, this particular plant is super messy to cut out. Anyway, and the cutting tool is not perfect by any stretch. So we can have a look at what we've got now. So come back down to the geometry node, this set position, and then mute that, and then scroll out and then set that to solid, and we'll have a look. You can see that it's outlined a lot of stuff there. It is not clean, but that's all right. What we need to do now is we need to go back to wireframe mode, and we need to select all. And what we're going to do now is we're going to triangulate this because we need a lot more geometry for the next bit we do. So go to face, triangulate faces, and there we go. We've got tons more geometry. When we've done that, we need to go into object mode, and we're going to do the next part, which is deleting a bunch of the geometry. To do that, we're going to use the actual texture alpha channel, so the opacity mask. So in the geometry nodes, we need to add texture, image, and then in here we need to select the diffuse texture, and then hook the UV maps up to the vector. And then out of the alpha we need to come to a Boolean not node. We want to invert black and white so that the black actually cuts or does the actual operation and not the white. And then we need to come out of this geometry and put in a delete geometry node and hook the Boolean up to that selection, and then select this point and turn it into face because we want to delete faces, not points or lines, and then hook that geometry into here, and now we will have a mostly cut out tree. There's still going to be a lot of excess stuff and errors. You can already see in here there's some polys not being deleted, and it's a bit yuck, but that's alright. So we've done the geometry node thing, so what we can do is we can now apply that while we're in object mode. Once that applies, this disappears, so we have to go back into add modifier, go to unassigned, and then the highlighted one will bring you back with bring your geometry nodes back again to be used again, which we're going to do. We'll mute this one, and then unmute this one, and then we'll go into edit mode, and again it'll pop up, so we have to come back over here and reapply this on cage to put it back where it should be, and we can move that out of the way for the moment and go to our Z axis and deselect all of it. Now it may look okay on first glance, but it's actually a bit rubbish. This is, I don't know what's going on here, but for some reason it cuts all that out. With our selection also in there, if we use the go to wireframe, if we use the X-ray, that'll actually show us up the path. Now you'll see that there's a bunch of polygons in here that if we go to face mode and then we turn on X-ray, these polys are overlapping. If we cut these out now, we'll be losing bits of at least one of the layers where the leaf is. So what I'm going to do now, I found is works okay, is to redo the actual knife project again. So with our mesh selected, again, control, select the selection, and then go up to mesh and then knife project, and this will take again a few minutes to do because it's going to cut through all of them again. And there we go. Again, deselect none. Now when we go back in, the polygons that were overlapping things before, these ones will do, you'll notice now that we have points. They've been cut a bit better. So what we can do now is we can actually reapply the geometry node using the image to delete all that other excess stuff. So we'll go down here and we'll mute that. We'll come back out to this view, which is fine, and you can see a spot where there is any. There's some right there. So there's triangles here that shouldn't be there. So what I'm going to do now is unmute this one, and it's just dumped a whole lot more of the geometry, which is what we want. I'm going to reapply that again. I just have to go to object mode to reapply the modifier. Apply that again, and then again get the geometry nodes back to use them again, because we're still using part of this set position to put everything flat again. Go into edit mode, it's going to pop up again, reapply the cage modifier over here, and then go back to Z axis, and now there's probably less to clean up. Again, the knife tool is not perfect, it's far from perfect, so it can be a bit of a pain. Alright, we've done as much cutting as we realistically can with the tool, so it's now a case of being in wireframe mode, having the selection selected, and then using the X-ray toggle to toggle the selection path on and off, and being in face mode, we can now select any polygons via these normals and hold shift down to select more than one, and a case of selecting those where you want to. Bear in mind these leaves, if we're this close to it, we've probably got our face up against the leaves just about. If you're going to view it in the game, it's probably going to be back here. You're not going to really notice some of these, so I'm not going to go too hard, but don't be pedantic. Don't try and get these tiny little triangles in a corner. It's just not worth it. Anything you don't select and then delete faces will cop a little bit of black or no texture in game, so just bear that in mind. If it's a big slab like some of these ones in here, they will probably show up in game and it'll look not great. So go around and turn this on and off, find your polys that you want to delete, and delete all of those. I'm going to leave some in that I'm not too concerned about. The ones that have popped up here now, you can see here there's a dot here. If I select that, I'll get this poly. They can be really out of whack in as far as their shape's concerned. Some of them will be quite difficult to work out where the poly center is, or the normal. It's a case of just, I was lucky on that one, it's a case of fishing around for them a little bit. You'll get used to it. You'll start to work out where they are. Some of them can be quite tricky. There we go. And then delete. When you delete, don't move your mouse or anything. It'll remember where you were in this list from last time you deleted, so just hit return or left click, and do that until you're happy that you've gotten rid of most of the polys that you don't want. And I'll come back when I've finished doing that, because it's going to take a little bit to do that. Done as much cleaning up as I'm prepared to do. Like I said, little triangles hanging off here and there, tiny little ones are not going to worry anyone. So now the cutting's all done, we can mute this again and see what it looks like. Go to the material and turn off the X-ray, and then go to object mode, and then we'll have a look at what it is coming up. See how we got some black edges here. Again, you get far enough away from them, you're really not going to notice them. And let's face it, no one's going to be getting up and close with a tree that's 5-6 meters high. So it seems okay. I can't see any real nasty irregularities in it or anything like that. I'm happy with that. So that'll be done. Okay, so now that we've done all the cutting out and everything like that, we can delete this. We don't need to apply it anymore. We can delete this geometry node. Delete that. Now what we need to do is we need to add another modifier to get rid of all the excess mess that you may or may not see that's on some of these, where we had all that real crusty, horrible triangulation going on from the cutting process. So we're going to do that, and oops. So we need to add a decimate modifier, and I'll leave it in this mode so we can see. So planar, and then you can see there it's basically got rid of almost all of the polygons, filling everything up, and that's fine. I'm going to apply that. Okay, that's done. Now we need to go back into our edit mode and select all, and now we're going to retriangulate this so that we get a nice triangulated set of faces. And we go. That is it, and done. So delete select none of them, go back to object mode, and we're done with our cutting and everything else. So the next thing to do is to turn off that path, right click on this and delete that part, delete the selection, because if you don't, that can come through in Unreal and you'll wonder why you've got this extra asset coming through. And we need to now grab the foliage and control click the trunk, and then in object mode go control J to stick them back together, and we are done. Our tree's back together and it's all cut out. So now we can export that. FBX, go to our folder. I'm going to use the same name as this, but I'm going to call it underscore non-masked, and we need to do active collection, and that's all we to do, export FBX, and if I've done everything right, we should be able to import it into here, which I'm going to import it into my modified folder, import, and then go to the non-masked FBX, import that. Some trick in here. When I was originally doing this, I was importing everything and I didn't take any notice of this collision section, and I was getting everything coming in with huge convex holes around them, which is not what I want. So normally when you come up against this, when you normally open this, by default it's set like this. As far as I know, we need to turn off those collision holes. So if I'm wrong about this, then ignore this section. But to do this, you need to actually turn these on, untick them, and then turn that off again to actually stop it making any collision on import. Everything else is default settings and import. Import failed. Why did it fail? Okay, back again. I had some issues exporting, and after some Googling, I tried a couple of things. I don't know if they did anything, but one of them was to go into edit mode. It was having an error importing into Unreal, saying that my file was empty and there was no data. So one of the fixes that was suggested was to go into edit mode, go to mesh, clean up, and then I deleted loose points, vertices and edges. It didn't seem to make any difference, but it probably did something. The other thing I did was, unlike I've done previously, and it's never failed me, but it did this time, in here I went from active collection and I changed it to selected objects because I'm only selecting those ones. But I also came down and I turned off, not geometry, in armature I turned off add leaf bones and I turned off animation, and then saved it. And then when I went to Unreal again and imported that file, it imported fine, as it's doing now. Okay, so I don't know what was quite going on there, but whatever. So once we've imported this, and we need to go in and get the materials, which are in here, and we want the trunk, medium tree trunk material, and the medium tree foliage material, and save that. While we're in here, we need to go down and tick is foliage. I don't know why, but it's a thing we're doing, I guess. Turn off all the collision for this. At this point, we could set that up manually anyway. Change this to 64, even though it's actually an import option and it's set, it just doesn't do it. And recheck the LODs. Okay, and then we can go up and we can click Nanite support and preserve area and apply changes. It'll take a little bit to do that, and then save that. And then now we have our nanite tree, and there we go, all done. That's it. That was a bit of a bugger, that tree, because the leaf cards were actually quite horrible to cut out, as you can see in here. We'll have a look. You can see that there's some bits missing in here, but who's gonna see that? I mean, honestly, yeah, it seems okay, really, considering we're going to be down here running around. We're not going to actually really notice that terribly much. There you go. That's it. Done. Enjoy.